Thank you. Thank you for the time. My name is Brian Kannard. I'm CEO at PercuSense, and I'm excited to talk to you about how we aim to become a leading intelligent biosensor company. So our goal is to transform healthcare through metabolic insights provided by our novel multi-metabolic sensor. I'd like to start with a little bit of a story that kind of gives you some context about what we're doing. And this is a true story from one of our team members. It was not our founding story. We were actually already working on the product that I'll tell you about today. But this happened to one of our team members' elderly parents. So picture someone in the late 80s in an assisted care facility diagnosed with a urinary tract infection, totally treatable, normal infection. Was on antibiotics and being treated there. Otherwise, nothing else going on. Her loved ones went in to see her to bring her to a separate doctor's office and said, "There's something not right with mom here. We don't need to go to the doctor. We need to go to the emergency department." She was brought to the ER, ended up being admitted into the hospital with a lactate level above 10 millimolar when anything above 2 millimolar is considered worrisome. And ultimately, she ended up developing sepsis from her urinary tract infection. Spent 2 weeks in the hospital and tragically, ultimately passed away from sepsis. The total cost of her care billed to Medicare was over $250,000. And this is really kind of what we're focused on. So we believe system-based care leads to late diagnosis and many different conditions. Our first focus is sepsis. What happens is the symptoms present very late in the disease progression. So physiologically, a lot of damage has already been done by the time it can be noticed and diagnosed. And there's other complicating factors. Many of these elderly patients have comorbidities that complicate the diagnosis and sometimes have communication difficulties as well. There are very effective treatments for many of these conditions, including sepsis. The key is that they're caught early and used, and the intervention happens very early. Sepsis, for every hour of delay in diagnosis, there's an 8% increase in mortality. And so by missing these opportunities for finding these patients and treating them early, this results in increased mortality, increased costs, and for the people that do survive, decreased quality of life after. So this is what PercuSense is focused on changing. So we have a novel metabolic vital sign monitor for early recognition and intervention in sepsis and other conditions. What it is a continuous monitor that is inserted subcutaneously 5 to 7 millimeters underneath the skin, and it is a multi-metabolite sensor, so we can monitor both tissue lactate and glucose on the same small miniature probe, do that accurately and at a low cost. It has a on-body wearable electronic device that connects to the sensor and resides on the body, and then it can transmit data. So this data can go to a mobile device with cloud connectivity that ultimately can lead to remote monitoring and population-level monitoring. This is what will drive that early detection and early prevention, or early intervention, which drives timely treatment. And ultimately, that timely treatment improves outcomes and can do this with enabling lower acuity care. So this enables hospital at home. So the first treatments of sepsis might be in that home or long-term care facility, or even if you're at the hospital, staying in the general ward versus having to go to the ICU. So how do we actually do this? Why glucose and lactate? Well, glucose and lactate are two really critical measurements in evaluating a patient's condition and prognosis. So lactate has been shown to have extremely high correlation and predictability with patient mortality. You can see in the graph on the right there, as lactate increases, that mortality percentage increase. And this graph tops out at 6 millimolar. So you can see our coworker's mother, who had a lactate level of greater than 10 millimolar, probably had a less than 10% chance of survival by the time she got to the emergency department. So in a big way, her fate was really probably decided at that point. So then why add glucose? Well, glucose is really important because it gives context, metabolic context to lactate measurement as well. Many of these patients are also have diabetes, and so it's important just from that respect, but it gives you context to the lactate measurement. And so you can do things because we are sensing them together. It's continuous and synchronous data where you can use things like the rate of change, but also the ratio between them, and that has been shown to be highly predictive of mortality and more so than just lactate by itself. So there's opportunities across the continuum of care. I've kind of talked about the pre-hospital. There's similar opportunities after the hospital, so many of these patients are at risk of rehospitalization once they are discharged. And then inside the hospital as well. So inside the hospital, lactate and glucose are already being monitored for sepsis, trauma, heart failure, post-surgery, and so we can replace that with a continuous accurate measurement that is at the bedside, so not having to send off a lab or anything like that, that provides the treating physician with the information in the moment where they can make decisions. It's a very large market opportunity, so we estimate the TAM at over $6.5 billion. There's 20 million diagnoses of UTI and pneumonia infections that can lead to sepsis alone each year. Where we estimate that market opportunity at almost over $1 billion. There's an adjacent market with congestive heart failure that's $1.2 billion. And then the hospital opportunity inside the hospital, replacing current monitoring of glucose and lactate in those many different conditions is a very large opportunity as well. And so just from this technology alone, it's a $6.5 billion total addressable market, and that doesn't include other extension opportunities like there's things with endurance athletes and things like that that are opportunities for the future. So we have made significant technical progress. So this is data from a rat. The dark blue trace here is our glucose sensor. We're benchmarking against an Abbott Libre CGM device because those are available and we can benchmark. And you can see we track both the Abbott Libre and also the glucose reference measurements very well. This was an 18-day study, well beyond what we would expect would be needed for inside or outside the hospital. We've also run preclinical studies extensively on the combined device. So this is glucose and lactate, again, showing our continuous traces against point-of-care measurements for those two molecules. So we've made really tremendous progress, and we're excited to move in the next stage. We have a very passionate and driven team. We were founded by a world-leading expert, a world-class engineer in the continuous monitoring space. So Rajiv Shah has over 35 years experience and spent 25 years at Medtronic, including stints leading CGM R&D and operations there. We have an experienced team with over 17 biosensor launches. So many team members have experience kind of throughout the different technology platform developing CGM and other biosensors. We've also been very focused on IP. We have 14 patent families filed and 2 granted patents, with more expected soon. And we've won $7 million in highly competitive non-dilutive funding. So we have non-dilutive funding from the U.S. Department of Defense and Helmsley Charitable Trust. And we're also supported by an outstanding team of external advisors as well. So we are seeking to raise a $12 million Series A that takes us from where we've been at, technology development, into our readiness for product development. So this would bring us from the state we're at right now all the way through design freeze and ready for formal verification, validation, and pivotal studies. So this would include our first-in-human testing and all the product development associated with the product and design. We think this is a major valuation inflection point for investors as well, so it's a great time to get in. The resulting funding would all be for kind of FDA submission and commercialization activities. So very much appreciate the time. We're very excited about our team and technology, and most importantly, the unmet need that we can impact in the healthcare space, and would be happy to talk to anyone that's interested after. Thank you.